Hello, my name is Erin, and I don't usually do any makeup videos on this channel, but I felt like doing makeup, and I don't like doing makeup if I'm just playing with makeup kind of thing usually. I like having my makeup to have a purpose, so if I'm not going out, I guess I'm doing a review slash tutorial. So I got this palette in the mail last night. It's Sample Beauty. I got it from Beauty Bay, which took like 2 months to ship here. So I was very excited to finally get this. It is the Sample Beauty Equalizer palette, Vol.2. It has this kind of, I would say metallic, it's not even iridescence because the color doesn't change, but it's a metallic, shiny case, and then the backing is like this if you want to see what that is. It's basically just saying there are 30 shades here and explaining how the shades match. So this palette has a shade matching system. Also it has a beautiful big mirror, and these are the colors. Basically the shade matching system is that every matte has a matching shimmer shade. So this middle row matches downwards, and then each of these rows match with the mirroring side. So for example, this is bitter and then sweet, and then this one is bottomless, brunch, and daydream, etc. So that's kind of like a suggestion on how to use the palette. Obviously you don't have to match the shimmers with the exact shadows that you're using. I did not. But anyway, so in this video I have swatched all of these shades because I always swatch any makeup or skincare products that I use on my face beforehand, just to make sure that I don't have any allergy or sensitivity to them. We're all good. But I swatched all of them, and I will tell you my thoughts on the swatches after I do my makeup portion. But for right now, I am just going to basically do a walkthrough of doing this eye look and using this palette for the first time today. To prep my eyes, I put on this ColourPop cream eyeshadow in the color Bronco. It's similar to my skin color, and I just put that on. It dries down matte, and it's a lot more oil proof, like from my eyelids, than concealer is, and it's really cheap and easy to use. The only thing that I'll say about these is that both of the ones that I bought were really dry, and I saw some other reviews online saying that they were too dry to use, and so if they come too dry, just put oil in them. I put some olive oil and like had it sit a bit and now they go on very smoothly. So let's get in to the palette. So whenever I'm doing my eyeshadow, I like to kind of set the primer with a white or a very light eyeshadow. So like this color, this is first in this palette, and we'll see how this performs. I like to just use this to set it so that it kind of lightens that primer a little bit, and it makes like a powder finish to the base so that the powder eyeshadows can go on and blend very smoothly. This is decently pigmented for like a true white eyeshadow. I hope you can see like the difference that it made. This is the side that I haven't put it on yet, and it's kind of like, now that we're done with prepping, it's time to start putting pigment. And the tricky thing about this eyeshadow palette is it doesn't actually have a good like base or transition shade. It's kind of all just colors already, because even like the browns are decently dark. So I'm going to go in with the color You Can, this color right here. I'm using a very not dense fluffy brush because I don't want to go in too hard. So let's see, because when I swatched these, the mattes were very pigmented, like you see, like very pigmented. But usually with the more pigment that an eyeshadow has, the more easily it gets patchy, because you kind of have to like pat it down and then blend it. And like that's the main issue I think people had with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette, which I have. And that one, honestly, it's tough to work with because you really have to like dip very lightly like this and just kind of like pat it where you want it to be and then start blending it out and kind of shearing it. And this shadow is kind of acting like a lot of those eyeshadows in that like it doesn't seem to want to move that much, but that's fine because like I've only used 3 like very small taps into the pan and you can see how much pigment is on there already. I just want a tiny little bit more on my outer corner because I think I'm gonna deepen it out. So I just want it to be able to blend a little better, like that. Also, I know that like right here it looks like it's a little patchy or it's not blending or something, but for some reason my eye right there, it kind of just clings to the eyeshadow in a weird way so that it like messes up the pigment, and it always looks like that, so don't pay attention to that. So you can definitely tell on my eyes when an eyeshadow tends to cling because it does that thing that I was talking about even more on this eye usually. You can see like right there, there's like a line where there isn't as much pigment, and that's just something about how like as I'm brushing it like this, my skin tends to pull, or the shape of my eye or something like that. But so like I said, that's fine, that's not exactly the eyeshadow's fault, but it does show that this eyeshadow, at least this specific one that I just put on, it doesn't like to move around, it likes to just sit where you put it, and then you can blend it out obviously, but it's still gonna want to sit about where it was. So I think I'm gonna use this brush again just because I was gonna go in with a denser brush, but the way that that eyeshadow was acting, I kind of want to stay with a brush that's a little looser so it doesn't pack on the pigment as much yet. And I'm going to go in with the eyeshadow Love, which is this shade right here. And we just use this one, so we're going in with like a slightly more burgundy pinkish one. And ooh, I got a punch on my brush. So where do I want to put this? I'll start on the outer corner and see how I feel about that. That's such a pretty color. It's like the perfect, I'm gonna say like mauve burgundy. I don't think that's a color, but do you see like the difference that made? This one is so pigmented. And I'm slowly bending it into the crease. This one seems like it blends a lot better actually than that brown shade that I used. Like you can see it's actually moving around. Right here is where I first put it, and now it's all right here. So that's good. Hopefully more of the mattes are more blendable like this. Okay, so that shade is on, and now I think I know what I want to do. I want to kind of create a little bit of a gradient from like this inner corner of my eye to the outer corner. So in the inner corner first, I'm going to use this shade Whispering right here, and I'm just gonna put that like very lightly just to kind of not show that color exactly, but to change the tone a little bit, and then I'll see how that looks. And for that I'm gonna be using this smaller brush. It's a little denser than the one that we were using, but I'm gonna be like really light with it, and I'm gonna put it right in here. I like it so far. It's making it a little more rosy in this corner, but not like to the point where it's like detracting from the rest of the colors, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if you can see the difference, but I'm just very slowly kind of working it in. And focus it a little here. Okay. I think that looks good. Versus this side, it's a little more bland looking in comparison. Okay, so now that that is done, I want to deepen out the outer corner with a purple shade. This one called On right here. It looks darker, like right there in the camera, than it looks in person. In person, it looks like a deep but vibrant, like plum purple almost. And so for that, I'm gonna use this Wet n Wild blending brush. I think this is just a regular blending brush, but you see it's a bit denser than the one I was using for my crease before. This one is just, it's gonna put product a lot more loosely, versus this one is gonna kind of pack a little better. And when I was swatching these, I was actually impressed by the purples, because usually, you know, when you swatch purples, even if you can make them look good on your eye, when you swatch them, they're usually very like patchy or chunky in texture, because that's just the purple pigment. It's really hard to make them smooth. But so far, this is going on very well. Look at that. Oh my god, that's so pretty. I might want to add more of that like pink tone brownish burgundy color like right here, just so I can better blend them, because these colors are getting a little intense and the middle I feel like isn't living up to that as well. I'm gonna take a tiny little bit more and start working on it, going like on my actual eyelid. That's such a pretty color too. Not sure if you can see, but like right here is just where that one color is, and it's so pretty. It really is like a true vibrant plum, or even like a date color. If you know the color of dates, it's a little bit like that. So now that I'm happy with how that is blended out, I'm gonna wipe off my brush a little bit, and I'm gonna go in with that color we used, I think second in the crease, Love, which was a burgundy color. I'm just gonna try and place it like right here, just to darken it up, blend it a little better. Yes. That is so pretty. Now I am using that same purple color and starting to blend it towards the middle of my eye just a bit, because next I'm going to do shimmer on the lid. We have so many pretty options. I don't know which color I'm gonna pick. I'm going to mix two shimmers. I know that's like against the rules for when you're doing a review or tutorial or type video, but I'm gonna mix this one, which is O'Clock, with this one, which is Angel, because this is kind of reddish. This is pinkish, but it's lighter, and I think with this kind of look, those together will look nice, but we'll see. If I don't like it, I can always cover it up. I'm gonna use this flat brush, and I'm gonna use this flat, I think, yeah, it's an e.l.f. brush. I always use this to put on shimmers, because it's like just the right shape and length and everything. So just going in a little bit with each side, and yeah. Doesn't that look so pretty? Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more red. I like how that looks so far. So I'm gonna do the other side. And I know I was watching a bunch of different reviews for this palette. Some of the people said, oh no, you need to do the shimmers with your fingers, which I personally hate doing that because then it gets all over my fingers. And some people said you need to lay down the matching color or a color before you put on the shimmer because it's not going to have that color enough. But I think, like, I'm not expecting shimmers to have like the most pigment like a matte is, but it should still have some color, unless it's like really cheaply made and junk. But these ones I think are perfectly fine on their own with a dry brush. I will try a wet brush after I finish putting an even layer on, but these are going on just fine, if anyone is wondering that. I don't think that you need to do other things to them. I hate when there are shimmers that people say that you have to do that too, because I feel like that kind of defeats the point of having a good, like, formula. Okay, so there's a shimmer on, and I really like these. So for fallout, the mattes didn't really have any fallout. The deep purple, when I was patting it on, had like a few specks on the outer portions of my face right here, which is completely normal. And then the glitters had quite a few like little flakes fall on my cheeks. I'm someone who doesn't mind that so much as long as it's not like over the top. Like, having a few specks is fine, so I think it's perfectly fine right now. And now I'm going to try with a wet brush. So for a wet brush, I like to use this hyaluronic acid and green tea refreshing face mist from Seed and Clay Probiotics Technology. I don't know, I just got this from Ross one day. It's like a hydrating face mist, and it kind of like it dries down in a specific way though that I like, versus setting sprays. I feel like if I put them on my eyes, they usually tend to be like tight feeling, which isn't the best feeling, versus this gets that kick of power, but it doesn't leave you with that uncomfortable eyelid experience. So I can definitely see there is a difference. This, like the wet brush, makes your shimmers look a little bit smoother and a little more like even, so it gives a illusion that there's more on your eyelids even though there's not. But in my opinion, you don't need to do this. I think they look perfectly beautiful without a wet brush, and I'm sure this would even work with regular water just because of how this is acting. Like, I don't know if you can see the difference, but I can. So now that all of this is done, I'm gonna do the lower section, and I'm gonna start off with that same brown that we started with, which is You Can, this one right here, and let's see how patchy it is. So I'm gonna use this brush that I was using earlier. I'm gonna wipe it off on my hand a little bit first. And I'm just gonna try and tap it on, concentrate it a little bit, see how this shadow does. It is so pigmented. So that looks nice so far. Again, my only issue with this palette is that it doesn't have a good transition shade, so I'm kind of just having to use this and try to blend it out, but I don't... If you're having eyeshadows that are this pigmented, it's hard to blend them out without it looking like that. Some people like it being really blown out like that. I personally do, but I know that a lot of people don't want such a heavy like smudge underneath their eye, and for that you would have to have your own transition shade from outside of this palette, which isn't the end of the world. I'm sure you have other makeup besides this one palette. Underneath my eyes, this is blending a little bit better, this shade. I still don't think it's the best though. It could be a bit, I want to say softer. It's not an issue of texture like that, it's just the amount that it clings to your skin. And I don't have particularly dry or oily skin around my eyes, so I don't feel like my skin itself should be an issue. But okay, so that's where we're at now. I think I just want to add a tiny bit of that purple, which was called On, to the outer corners of my under eyes, just to kind of connect the look. So going to about like right here on my eye, that's about to where I'll blend it out the most. There was a little bit of fallout from that brown shade underneath my eyes. And then the very last step, which I like to do, but you totally don't have to do, is I like to put a bit of the shimmer shade on the eyelid, like right here, like not exactly in my inner corner, but underneath my tear duct. And I just use whatever is like left as residue on the brush that I was using. You don't need like a whole punch, but I feel like it brings the look together a little bit. This is all for the eyeshadow. I'm gonna finish my makeup and I will be back. So this is the finished look. I will put in some little video clips at the end after I finish talking. I hope you like what I did with this palette. I tried to do something that I haven't seen other people, like in other reviews or tutorials, do with this palette. Although I think it's hard to have a lot of unique looks, to be honest. That's what I'm kind of reflecting on, because to me the colors are so... Obviously they're not the same, but they're pretty similar. Like, if you actually want to use multiple of these colors, you'll probably get something like this most of the time. Unless you go for like a bright orange or something, or exclusively use these colors right here. But because the rest of them are pinks and purples, I can't see you not getting something like this if you try to use any of those colors. That doesn't mean the palette is bad though. I think it's a great palette. I obviously bought it because I like the colors. I don't have a lot of colors that are like these, and I love the idea of all the shades matching and all the shades having a shimmer to match with them. I think that's great, and I really love the variety of shimmers that are in this palette. I do think you have to be careful on how you use the mattes, because although some of them seemed like blended really nicely, like the purple shade and the burgundy shade I used, love. So I used these two shades right here. Those ones blended pretty well, like just on their own. But the You Can shade did not blend that well. It was more of that like pat and then kind of try to move it around kind of eyeshadow, which is fine. It just takes a bit more of a technique to actually work with a shadow that's like that. And obviously I haven't tried the rest of the mattes in this palette yet, so I don't know which ones are like that and which ones are actually nicely blendable, because I would say in the order that I use the mattes, they were pretty much like least to most blendable. So they're all different in how blendable they are, is my point. So that is something to be aware of, like when you are first trying this palette, or if you're just looking into it. If you feel like you can't work with trickier, like high pigment eyeshadows like that, then maybe this isn't the palette for you, even though it's at a cheaper price point. I think some of the shades still need that level of technique that a beginner, or even someone who's a bit above beginner, might not be able to really do so well. So just be aware of that. Like I said, I did swatch these colors. All the mattes are so nicely pigmented, and all the shimmers are really smooth and soft, and they go on so nicely, like when you swatch them on your arm. The only shade that I thought swatched poorly, that I have not tried on my eyes yet, so I don't know how it'll perform, but to me it doesn't look good. I might not even end up trying it, is the black glitter shade. It's Male, this one right here. It just came off really chalky and dry and patchy. I have oil on my arm right now, so that might affect the swatching, but so this is it on my finger. So I'll try it on my hand because my hand doesn't have oil. Like, that does not look good, even compared to the matte black. This is the matte black on my finger. Like, at least, I don't know, blacks are tough, right? But I feel like this one is so much better than this one. Like, you can see the pigment kind of just trailed off in a way, versus here it, like, I don't know, it's just weird. It's even patchy, like, to begin with, and I hope you could tell there's nothing different in how I swatch these. It's just bad. Obviously swatches can't tell everything, but that's the one shade that I thought looked worrying when I swatched it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the review of this palette. Give me a thumbs up if you do like it. I might do more makeup videos in the future, I'm not sure. I was kind of just in the mood to do this today, I don't know why. But thank you for watching my video, and now I will get into the clips of